So in this section, we're going to be working with something called the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is where your line crosses the y-axis. Think of if you are a sports watcher and you are watching football. An interception is where the football is being thrown, and then a player from the opposite team catches it. He intercepts it. Or think of if you were sending a message and you were a spy and you're sending a message. An interception would be when somebody is able to get that message that shouldn't have it. So when we're looking at the y-intercept, we're looking at where your line is crossing the y-axis. So it's crossing right here. Remember, your y-axis is the line that's going straight up and down. So this is going to cross at the point 0, -2. When you cross the y-axis, we know that x is always going to be 0. So at this one, letter B, it's crossing right at the origin, which is at 0, 0. Letter C, we're also crossing right here, which is going to be at 0, -2. And letter D, there isn't one because it's a vertical line, and a vertical line does not have a y-intercept because it doesn't cross the y-axis. All right, so when you take a look at a table to find the y-intercept, we talked about that the x value is going to be 0. So our y-intercept is going to be at 0, -7. So when you have a table that does not have a 0 in the x column, one thing you could do is just continue the pattern. And we look here and see that we're continuing the pattern in the y column by going up by 1. And so that's going to be at 0, 6. We're going up by 1 and we're going up by 1. So we can just continue our pattern. When we have letter C, we could go backwards. So in the x column, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And in the y column, it looks like we're going backwards by 3. So 23, 20, 17, 14, 11, go backwards by 3 and go backwards by 3. So our y-intercept is going to be at 0, 5. Now, what if we don't have a table or a graph? Well, we said that x is equal to 0. So all we do is put a 0 into our equation for x and we calculate it. So 7 times 0 is 0, minus 2 would be -2. So our y-intercept is going to be at 0, -2. Letter B, if we put a 0 in for x, 0 plus 13 would equal 13. So our y-intercept is going to be at 0, 13. In letter C, when we put a 0 in for x, anything times 0 is 0, so our y-intercept is going to be at 0, 0. When we put a 0 in on letter D, -2/3 times 0 is 0, and 0 take away 9 is going to be -9. So our y-intercept is going to be at 0, -9. On letter E, if we want x to be -3, and it's always going to be -3, that's going to be a vertical line, so there is not going to be a y-intercept because it's a vertical line. On letter F, if y is at -3, that means y is always going to be at -3, which crosses the y-axis at -3. So that is going to be the point 0, -3 for our y-intercept. So what pattern do we recognize? We recognize that x is always equal to 0, no matter if we are in the table or if we are in the graph, or if we are in the equation. So now we're going to review, going back, that we're going to find the slope and the y-intercept. So please remember, slope is designated as the letter M. Y-intercept is designated as the letter B. So in letter A, let's find our y-intercept first, because we always remember that x is equal to 0. So our y-intercept is at 0, 2. Remember, to find our slope, we can do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is our vertical change over our horizontal change. And in this case, since we have the table, all we have to do is look at our vertical change. What is changing each time for y is that we're going -1, and for x, we're going up 2. So our slope is going to be -1 over 2, which is our vertical change over our horizontal change. When we're looking at an equation to find the slope and the y-intercept, let's start with the y-intercept. And remember, since x is 0, we're going to put a 0 in for x, and 0 plus 8 is 8. So our y-intercept is going to be at 0, 8. If we want to find the slope for a table, we're just going, or for an equation, we're just going to make a table. Let's put in the values 1 and 2. Actually, we could put in one of the values we already know, 0, 8. Now let's put in a 1. So 1 plus 8 is 9. So now let's do the vertical change. It's going up 1. And the horizontal change is going up 1. So our slope is 1 over 1, which is 1. Okay, let's look at the graph. First, let's find where it's crossing the y-axis. That's our y-intercept at 0, 0. Then if I pick my 2 points and I see what's happening, I'm going to make my triangle. I'm going down 3 and over 1. So my vertical change is -3. My horizontal change is 1. My slope is -3. Okay, let's look at our y-intercept in letter D. Remember, it has to be 0 for our x value, so we're going to go backwards. And it looks like this time we have to go backwards by 4. So 3 going backwards by 4 would be -1. And going backwards by 4 would be -5. So our y-intercept is at 0, -5. Our slope, remember, is our vertical change over our horizontal change. So it's 4 over 1, which is 4. So we were finding the y-intercept, remembering that the y-intercept is where our graph crosses the y-axis, and x is always 0 for our y-intercept.